Hello and welcome again to another Networks Learning session. Today's topic is HSRP, Hot Standby Routing Protocol. This will be a two-part video. Part 1 is the theory or the introduction, and part 2 will be a lab demo where we go through the configuration, the debugging and the fine-tuning and so forth. HSRP is a first hop routing protocol. So it runs between a host and a first set of gateway routers. HSRP is CISCO proprietary, which means you can only use it on CISCO iOS devices. If you want to configure something similar on a non-CISCO devices, you will have to use VRRP, Virtual Router Redundancy Protocol, which is the IETF standard. So HSRP is CISCO proprietary, VRRP is a standard IETF. With this example, a host can select either router 1 as a gateway or router 2. But this does not give us any protection in terms of link failures, whether they are direct link on the LAN or the uplink, or actually the whole router failure. So if this happens and we had router 1 selected or configured as default gateway, we will lose total connectivity, and there's no failover, no conversions. That's it. You lose the router, you lose your connectivity. Now what HSRP brings to the equation is a virtual gateway. So this virtual gateway is an IP address that is sitting on router 1 and also on router 2. But through negotiations, through HSRP negotiations, only one router will be active, whereas the other will be on standby. So this can be hard-coded also using HSRP priorities. But at the end of the day, only one router will be active and forwarding traffic. In this example, router 1 is the active router, and this is the one forwarding traffic. If there is a failure, as we spoke earlier, either in the uplink or the router itself, then router 2 will assume the role of active. It will no longer be a standby router. There is some hello protocols between the two HSRP routers. The default hold time is 10 seconds. So if router 2, which was a standby router, does not hear from router 1 within 10 seconds, it will assume router 1 is out, is down, and it will become the active router and start forwarding traffic. From the time you do your configuration, you start configuring your interfaces for HSRP, the routers have to go through several states, which will end by a selection, one of them being the standby and the other one being the active. If there are changes after this is established, after router 1 is, for example, the active and router 2 is the standby, so if there are any changes in the status whereby router 2 has to become active, there will be a speak happening in between. In terms of configuration, it is rather simple. So each interface on each router is configured the same way, or the normal way you would give it a unique IP address on the same LAN. It's very important the two routers or the two interfaces that needs to run HSRP have to be in the same LAN. They need to be able to communicate and have the hello packets going back and forth. So your router 1 has its IP address, router 2 has an IP address on the same LAN. All what you need to do is to add a standby address. Now, this is your virtual gateway that we mentioned earlier. And there is a standby 10 at this point, or in this example, represent the group. In HSRP version 1, this can be, it goes all the way to 255. So we will go through the different versions of HSRP in a second. HSRP version 1, this standby address or virtual gateway 10.1.1.1 has a distinct MAC address, and the format is 0C07AC 0A. For version 2, it's almost the same, It will end with 0A, but the format is different. It's C9F F0 0A. Now I keep mentioning 0A is because 0A in hex is actually 10, which is the standby group that we have selected. So that's pretty much the only thing that will change. The two routers have to be on the same group. You can have several groups per interface for load balancing. HSRP version 1, if you don't make any changes, no changes to your configuration, this is your default in Cisco IOS. HSRP version 2 needs to be configured, and it has some advantages. Faster timers, you can start hitting milliseconds, and the group range for the standby address can expand from 255 for version 1 all the way to 4095. This doesn't mean that you can or you should configure 4095 standby group under your interfaces. It just gives you some additional options. Perhaps you need or you want to start using a group ID that matches your VLANs, or to have some kind of convention where you need more a space for more digits and so forth. So this gives a very light and high level introduction to HSRP. There's a lot more to HSRP than this few slides. But in the next part, we will run a lab. I'll run my labs on Cisco Viral. And on this lab, we will have this topology, basically a host connected to a switch, two routers as an uplink, and an internet router. HSRP will be running between router 1 and router 2. So thanks for watching so far, and I'll see you in part 2.